My name is Marcus Webb. I need to write this down while I can still remember what's real, while I can still remember who Emily was before Kisatchie Forest. We'd been planning the trip for months. Just a week away from Philadelphia, Emily's idea, actually. She'd found the RV rental online, some family-owned place in Louisiana that gave her a deal because it was off-season, October in Kisatchie National Forest. She showed me pictures of the campground, scattered sites between the pines, a lake nearby, trails that wound through the woods. "It'll be quiet," she'd said. "Just us." I should have questioned why it was so cheap. I should have asked why, in peak fall camping season, we could get an entire RV for less than a hotel room. We drove down on a Saturday. Took us 18 hours with stops, Emily switching with me every few hours. The RV handled worse than I expected, top-heavy, swaying whenever a semi passed us on the highway. By the time we crossed into Louisiana, my shoulders ached from gripping the wheel. "There," Emily said, pointing to a warn sign, "Kisatchie National Forest, Kincaid Recreation Area." The turnoff was easy to miss. Just a gap in the trees with a gravel road leading into darkness. The campground host station was empty when we pulled in around dusk. Just a small wooden booth with a handwritten sign taped to the window. "Pay at site number 1, cash only, 25 night." "That's weird," Emily said, leaning forward to read it. The website said someone would be here until 9 p.m. I checked my phone. 7:47 p.m. No signal. But that wasn't surprising out here. "Maybe they stepped away," I said. "Let's find our site." We'd reserved site number 12, supposedly one of the better ones with a view of the lake. The gravel road curved through the forest, our headlights cutting through the gathering dark. I counted the sites as we passed. Number 3, number 5, number 7. All empty. No campers, no tents, no signs of anyone. "Where is everyone?" Emily asked. "Off-season," I reminded her. "You said it would be quiet." But this wasn't quiet. This was abandoned. Site number 12 sat at the end of a short spur road, backed against a thick line of pines. The lake was visible through the trees, maybe 100 yards away, its surface flat and black in the twilight. A concrete pad marked where we should park the RV, and there was a picnic table, a fire ring and a post with an electrical hookup, and a scarecrow. It stood at the edge of the site, right where the clearing met the forest. Someone had lashed together 2 pieces of wood in a cross shape and dressed it in old clothes, a red flannel shirt, torn jeans, work boots. The head was a burlap sack with a crude face drawn in black marker, 2 X's for eyes, a stitched line for a mouth. "That's charming," Emily said. I parked the RV and killed the engine. The silence that followed was immediate and complete. No traffic sounds, no voices from other campers, no music or laughter. Just the faint whisper of wind through the pines. "I'll set up the hookups," I said. "You want to start dinner?" Emily nodded, but she was still looking at the scarecrow. "Do you think that's supposed to scare away animals or something?" "Probably." I climbed out of the RV and the cold hit me immediately. It had been warm when we stopped for gas 2 hours ago, but now the temperature had dropped at least 15 degrees. I could see my breath. The electrical hookup was straightforward. Just plug in the cord, flip the breaker. I connected the water line next, then checked the propane tanks. Everything seemed fine. When I straightened up, I noticed something odd about the scarecrow. It was facing us. I know that sounds stupid. Scarecrows don't move. But I could have sworn when we first pulled up, it had been facing the other direction, toward the forest. Now it was angled toward the RV, that crude drawn face seeming to watch me. "Marcus," Emily called from inside. "Can you grab the groceries?" I shook off the feeling and retrieved the cooler from the back. Inside the RV, Emily had turned on the lights and the heater. It already felt more like home, cramped and warm and safe. We made spaghetti on the propane stove, ate at the small dinette table, and tried to ignore the fact that we were completely alone in the forest. Emily kept checking her phone. "Still no signal," she said. "We knew that might happen." I know, but... She set the phone down. It just feels really isolated out here. That's the point, right? Get away from everything. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Yeah, you're right. After dinner, we sat outside by the fire ring. I'd gathered some fallen branches and got a small fire going, more for light than warmth. The RV heater worked fine. Emily sat close to me on the picnic table bench, her shoulder pressed against mine. "Do you hear that?" she asked after a while. I listened. "Hear what?" "Nothing, that's what I mean. There's no sound at all." She was right. The forest was completely silent. No insects, no birds, no rustling of small animals in the underbrush, just the crackling of our fire and the occasional pop of sap. The scarecrow stood at the edge of the firelight, its shadow long and twisted. "I'm going to take it down," I said, standing up. "Why?" "It's creepy, and it's probably someone's idea of a prank anyway." I walked over to it, the fire warm at my back. Up close, the scarecrow looked even more roughly made. The flannel shirt was stained and torn, the jeans frayed at the cuffs. The boots were caked with dried mud, the burlap head lolled to one side, the X-eyes seeming to follow me. I grabbed the wooden frame where the crossbeam met the post and pulled. It didn't budge. I tried again, putting my weight into it, and the whole thing tilted forward. But it was anchored deep. Whoever put it here had sunk the post at least 2 feet into the ground. "Forget it," Emily called. "Just leave it." I stepped back. The scarecrow slowly tilted back to its original position, that crude face once again pointed toward our camp. That night I couldn't sleep. The RV bed was comfortable enough, but every small sound seemed amplified. The creak of the frame when Emily shifted position, the tick of the propane heater cycling on and off, the rustle of something, wind or animal I couldn't tell, moving through the trees outside. Around 2 a.m., I gave up and slipped out of bed. Emily was asleep, her breathing slow and steady. I pulled on my jacket and stepped outside. The night was crystal clear, the stars bright and cold. Our fire had died to embers. I could barely make out the scarecrow's silhouette against the trees, a darker shape in the darkness. I don't know what made me walk toward the lake. Maybe I just needed to move, to do something. I followed a narrow trail through the pines, the ground soft with fallen needles. The lake appeared suddenly, opening up before me like a void. The water was perfectly still, reflecting the stars. Something pale floated near the shore. I stepped closer, squinting in the darkness. It looked like cloth? A piece of fabric, maybe. I found a long stick and used it to pull the thing closer. When I saw what it was, my breath caught. A shirt. A red flannel shirt, soaked through, dripping. Just like the one on the scarecrow. I dropped the stick and backed away from the shore. The shirt drifted back out, caught by some invisible current, and disappeared into the darkness of the lake. When I got back to the RV, I checked on the scarecrow. It was still there, still wearing its red flannel shirt. The fabric was dry. I didn't tell Emily about the shirt in the morning. She was in a better mood, making coffee and humming to herself while I stowed the bedding. The sun was bright through the windows, and the forest looked different in daylight. Less oppressive, almost beautiful. "Let's go hiking," she said. "There's supposed to be a trail that circles the lake. It's only about 3 miles. I hesitated. "I don't know. Maybe we should check in with the campground host first. We still haven't paid." "We can do that when we get back. Come on, the weather's perfect." She was right. The morning was cool but pleasant, the kind of fall day that made you forget winter was coming. We packed water and snacks, locked up the RV, and found the trailhead at the south end of the campground. The trail was well maintained but clearly unused. Fallen leaves covered the path, undisturbed by any recent footprints. We hiked in comfortable silence for the first mile, Emily stopping occasionally to take pictures with her phone. "Still no signal," she said, checking the screen. "Did you expect one out here?" "No, I guess not. It just feels weird being so disconnected." We reached a bend in the trail where it curved close to the lakeshore, and Emily grabbed my arm. "Marcus, look." Another scarecrow stood among the trees about 20 feet from the trail. This one was different, dressed in a woman's dress, the fabric faded and torn. The head was the same burlap sack with X's for eyes, but someone had added yarn for hair. "Okay, that's definitely weird," I said. "Why would someone put scarecrows out here? There aren't any fields or gardens. Maybe it's an art project? Some kind of installation?" Emily walked closer to it. "The dress looks really old. Like vintage. Don't touch it." "I'm not going to touch it." But she circled around it, examining it from all angles. "There's something written on the back of the head." I joined her. Someone had scrawled something in black marker on the burlap, but the letters were faded and hard to read. "Does that say Martha?" Emily asked. It did. The name was written in shaky letters, Martha. "This is getting too weird," I said. "Let's head back." "We're halfway around the lake already. It's the same distance either way." She was right, but I didn't like it. Still, turning back felt like giving in to an irrational fear. We kept walking. We found 3 more scarecrows before we completed the loop. Each one was different clothes, different poses, different names written on the burlap heads. Robert, James, Lisa. The last one stood right at the edge of our campsite, visible from the trail. It was the one we'd seen the night before, still wearing that red flannel shirt, still facing our RV. Emily took a picture of it. "I'm posting these when we get back to civilization. This is so bizarre." "If we get back to civilization?" I said, trying to make it sound like a joke. She didn't laugh. We spent the afternoon around the RV. Emily read while I attempted to fix a loose cabinet door in the kitchen. The forest remained silent, oppressively so. Every time I looked out the window I saw the scarecrow, its crude face watching us. Around 4 p.m., Emily went to take a shower in the RV's tiny bathroom. I heard the water start, then stop after a few minutes. "Marcus?" she called. "The water's brown." I checked the hookup. The connection looked fine, but when I turned on the kitchen tap, rust-colored water sputtered out. "Must be the campground's water system," I said. "Probably old pipes. It smells weird too, like, I don't know, stagnant." I sniffed. She was right. The water had a musty, organic smell, like it had been sitting in a pond. "We have bottled water," I said. "Use that for now. We can ask the host about it." But when I walked to site number 1, the host station was still empty. This time I noticed other details. The grass around the booth was overgrown, reaching almost to the window. The paint on the door was peeling. The handwritten sign about payment looked old, the ink faded by sun and weather. How long had it been since anyone actually worked here? I tried the door. Locked. I peered through the window, shading my eyes with my hand. The interior was dark, but I could make out a desk, a filing cabinet, and something else. A shape hanging from the ceiling. I pressed my face closer to the glass. It was another scarecrow, suspended from a rafter by a length of rope. But this one was different. The clothes looked newer, and the burlap head was tilted at an unnatural angle, like someone hanging. I stepped back from the window, my heart hammering. "Did you find them?" Emily asked when I got back. "No, no one's there." "That's really strange." "Yeah, I didn't mention the scarecrow." "Listen, maybe we should think about leaving early. This place is..." "What? Marcus, we just got here, and it's fine. Weird, sure, but fine. The water's contaminated, there's no host, we're the only people here." "So what? We have everything we need in the RV. And honestly, after the last few months, I could use some time where no one's bothering us." She took my hand. "Please, let's just give it one more night." I wanted to argue, but she had a point. The last few months had been stressful. My job, her job, money problems, family drama. This was supposed to be our escape, our chance to reconnect. "One more night," I agreed. That evening, we cooked dinner inside the RV, burgers on the propane stove with canned corn and instant mashed potatoes. Basic camping food, but it tasted good. Emily opened a bottle of wine she'd brought, and we sat at the dinette, talking and laughing like we used to. Around 10 p.m., she decided to go to bed. I told her I'd join her soon, but I wanted to sit outside for a bit, enjoy the fire. "Don't stay up too late," she said, kissing my forehead. I nursed a beer by the fire ring, watching the flames dance. The scarecrow stood at the edge of the light, its shadow flickering. I found myself staring at it, trying to convince myself it was just wood and cloth and burlap. The fire burned low. I was about to head inside when I heard something. A voice, distant, barely audible over the settling wood. "Marcus." I stood up, my beer forgotten. The voice came from the direction of the lake. "Marcus, help." It sounded like, "Emily?" I turned toward the RV. The lights were off. She must be asleep. But then, "Marcus, please." The voice came again, still from the lake. Definitely Emily's voice, but wrong somehow. Strained, desperate. I grabbed my flashlight and ran toward the lake, my mind racing. Had she gotten up? Walked outside without me noticing? But why would she go to the lake in the dark? The beam of my flashlight cut through the trees, bouncing as I ran. I reached the shore, breathing hard, and swept the light across the water. Nothing. Just the flat black surface of the lake, undisturbed. "Emily," I called. No response. I turned, planning to run back to the RV, and that's when I saw them. 5 scarecrows stood between me and the campsite. 5 silhouettes against the darkness, spaced out in a rough line. I knew they hadn't been there when I ran past. They'd been at other points around the lake. I'd seen them during our hike, but now they were here, blocking my path. I moved forward, shining my flashlight on each one as I passed. The names were still there on the burlap heads: Martha, Robert, James, Lisa, and one more I hadn't noticed before, Sarah. They didn't move. Of course they didn't move. They were just wood and cloth. But as I walked past the last one, Sarah, I heard it. The creak of wood shifting. The rustle of fabric. I ran the rest of the way back to the RV and burst through the door, my heart pounding. Emily was asleep in bed, curled up under the blankets, her breathing soft and steady. I checked every window, every lock. Nothing was out of place. The scarecrow at our site stood where it had always been, that red flannel shirt rustling slightly in the wind I couldn't feel. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the dinette with all the lights on, watching through the windows, waiting for, I don't know what. For the scarecrows to move, for something to emerge from the forest. Nothing happened. The night passed in silence. When dawn finally came, I felt like I'd been awake for a week. Emily found me at the table, my head resting on my arms. "Did you sleep out here?" she asked. "Couldn't sleep." "You okay?" I wanted to tell her everything. The voice, the scarecrows moving, the feeling that something was very wrong with this place. But in the morning light, it all sounded crazy. "Yeah," I said. "Just strange dreams." She made coffee while I stared out the window. The scarecrow stood in its usual spot. In daylight, it looked almost ridiculous, a crude stick figure dressed in thrift store cast-offs. "I was thinking," Emily said, bringing me a mug. "Let's go into town today. We need more water anyway, and we should probably actually pay for the site. There must be an office or something." The nearest town was Kincaid, about 15 miles away. We'd driven through it on our way to the campground, just a handful of buildings clustered around a single intersection. The drive there was quiet. Emily kept trying to start conversations, but I was too tired and too on edge to respond properly. I kept checking the rearview mirror, convinced I'd see something following us, but there was nothing. Just empty road and dense forest. Kincaid looked even smaller in daylight. A gas station, a general store, a post office, and what might have been a bar or restaurant with a faded sign. Crawdads. We parked at the general store. Inside, it was dark and musty, the shelves half empty and coated with dust. An old woman sat behind the register watching a small TV with the volume turned low. "Help you?" she asked without looking up. "We need some water," Emily said. "Bottled water. And we're staying at the campground, but we haven't been able to find the host." The woman finally looked at us. Her eyes were milky with cataracts. "Which campground?" "Kincaid Recreation Area, in Kisatchie Forest." Something flickered across the woman's face. Recognition. Fear. That place been closed near 20 years. What? Emily said. No, it can't be. We made a reservation online. We're staying there right now. The woman shook her head slowly. Don't know what website you looked at, but that place ain't been open since the incident. What incident? I asked. She didn't answer immediately, just stared at us with those cloudy eyes. Family went missing out there, she finally said. Halloween 2003. 5 people, mother, father, 2 kids, and the grandmother. They was camping, and one morning they was just gone. No trace. RV still there, food still on the table, but no people. That's terrible, Emily said, but week later they found him, or what was left of him. The woman's voice dropped to almost a whisper. Hanged. All 5 of them hung from trees around the lake. But here's the thing. They'd been dressed up like scarecrows. Old clothes, burlap sacks over their heads, names written on the sacks. My stomach turned to ice. What were the names? I asked, though I already knew. Let me think. Martha, Robert, James, Lisa, and Sarah. She nodded. That was the grandmother, Sarah. They was the last ones. After that, they closed the whole campground. Too many questions, too much bad press. No one goes there no more. But we're there, Emily insisted. Right now. We've been camping there for 2 nights. The woman just looked at us. You need to leave, she said finally. Right now. Don't go back for nothing. Just drive. Our stuff is there, I said. The RV? I said leave it. Whatever's out there, it ain't worth your life. We bought the water and left. In the truck, Emily turned to me, her face pale. That's just a story, she said. Small-town horror story to scare tourists. Then why does she think the campground is closed? Because maybe it was closed, but it's open now, obviously. We're staying there. The names on those scarecrows. It's a coincidence or someone's sick idea of a joke based on that old story. But I could see the doubt in her eyes. We drove back in silence. The forest seemed darker on the return trip, the trees pressing closer to the road. When we pulled into the campground, everything looked exactly as we'd left it. The scarecrow stood at the edge of our sight, facing the RV, still wearing that red flannel shirt. I'm going to take a nap, Emily said when we got inside. I didn't sleep well last night either. Okay. She disappeared into the bedroom, and I heard the rustling as she got into bed. I sat at the dinette, staring out the window at the scarecrow. 20 years. The incident had happened 20 years ago, almost to the day. It was October 26th now. Halloween was 5 days away. I must have dozed off because I woke to darkness. The sun had set. I checked my watch. 7:30 p.m. I'd been asleep for almost 4 hours. Emily, I called. No answer. I stood up, my body stiff, and walked to the bedroom. The bed was empty, the blankets thrown back. Emily? I checked the bathroom. Empty. I opened the RV door and stepped outside. The campsite was dark except for our lights. No fire, no flashlight beam, nothing. Emily! My voice echoed through the forest, then died in that oppressive silence. I grabbed my flashlight and ran toward the lake, calling her name. The trail was empty. The shore was empty. I ran around the entire lake, checking every spot where we'd seen the scarecrows during our hike. They were all still there, all except one. The scarecrow that had stood at our campsite, the one in the red flannel shirt, was gone. I sprinted back to the RV, my lungs burning. Maybe she'd come back. Maybe I'd just missed her. But the RV was still empty. I searched the campground. Every site, every trail, every building. Nothing. No sign of her. And then I saw it. At the far end of the campground, near the host station, something stood in the darkness. A figure. I ran toward it, hope surging in my chest. Emily. But as I got closer, as my flashlight beam swept across it, the hope died. It was a scarecrow, a new one. This one wore Emily's clothes, her blue jacket, her jeans, her hiking boots. The burlap head lolled to one side, held by a rope around the neck, and on the back of the head, written in black marker, was a name: Emily. I screamed. I pulled at the scarecrow, trying to tear it down, but like the others, it was anchored deep. The clothes rustled under my hands, Emily's clothes, still carrying her scent. I collapsed to my knees in the dirt, the flashlight falling from my hand. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Slow, dragging footsteps. I turned, grabbing the flashlight, and swept the beam across the darkness. Emily stood at the edge of the light, her blue jacket, her jeans, her hiking boots, all gone. She wore the scarecrow's red flannel shirt and torn jeans. In her hand, she held the scarecrow's burlap head. Emily? My voice cracked. She stepped forward into the light, and I saw her face. Her expression was blank, her eyes empty, and her mouth. Her mouth was stretched in a wide, stitched smile, black thread pulling at her lips. Emily, she said, but the voice wasn't hers. It was wrong. Flat, emotionless. That's what the head says. She held up the burlap sack. On it, written in fresh black marker, was my name, Marcus. I ran. I ran back to the RV, my body screaming in protest, my mind fracturing. I locked myself inside and fell against the door, sobbing. This wasn't real. This was a nightmare. I was still asleep at the dinette, dreaming. But I wasn't asleep. A knock on the door. 3 slow, deliberate strikes. Marcus? Emily's voice, but wrong. I made you something. Another knock. Marcus, open the door. I crawled away from the door toward the bedroom. Maybe I could barricade myself in there, maybe. The door handle turned. I'd locked it. I knew I'd locked it. But the door swung open anyway. Emily stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the darkness. The red flannel shirt hung loose on her frame. The burlap head dangled from her hand. You need to put this on, she said in that flat, wrong voice. Everyone puts it on eventually. Emily, please. I was crying now, pressed against the wall. It's me, it's Marcus. Come back. She tilted her head, considering. For a moment, just a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Recognition. Fear. Emily, she whispered, and this time, it was her real voice. My name is Emily. I'm... The blankness returned. The stitched smile widened. No, she said. Not anymore. She stepped into the RV. I bolted past her, out the door, into the night. I ran without thinking, without direction, just ran. The forest flew past, branches tearing at my clothes and skin. Behind me I heard footsteps, steady, patient, inevitable. I don't know how long I ran. Hours. Minutes. Time had lost meaning. Eventually, I stumbled and fell, my ankle twisting. I crawled behind a tree, pressing myself against the bark, trying to silence my ragged breathing. The footsteps stopped. Silence. I waited, every muscle tensed, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst. Then I heard them, voices in the darkness. Many voices speaking in unison. Marcus. I looked around the tree. 6 figures stood in a circle around me. 5 scarecrows, Martha, Robert, James, Lisa, Sarah, and Emily. They all wore the same blank expression, the same stitched smile. It's time, they said together. The scarecrows weren't scarecrows anymore. I could see now, could see the pale skin beneath the torn clothes, the human hands hanging at their sides, the vacant eyes staring from the burlap sacks. They'd been people once. The family from 2003. They were still people in a way. And they wanted me to join them. No, I whispered. But I was surrounded. There was nowhere left to run. Emily stepped forward. In her hands, she held the burlap sack with my name on it. It doesn't hurt, she said in that wrong voice. You just become something else. Fight it, I begged her. You're still in there. I know you are. Please." Something flickered across her face again. Pain? Confusion? I can't remember," she said, her real voice breaking through. "Marcus, I can't remember who I was." "You're Emily. You're my Emily. We came here together. We were supposed to..." But the others were moving closer now, their hands reaching for me. I did the only thing I could think of. I ran straight at Emily, grabbed her arms, and pulled her away from the others. She stumbled, confused, and I saw it, a flash of recognition in her eyes, brief, but real. "Run!" I shouted, dragging her with me. We crashed through the forest, the others pursuing. I could hear them behind us, not running but walking with that same patient, inevitable pace. I found a trail and followed it, Emily stumbling beside me. The RV appeared ahead, and I pulled her inside, slamming the door. "The keys," I gasped. "Where are the keys?" Emily stared at me blankly. "The RV keys, Em. Where did we put them?" She blinked again. On the hook by the door?" I found them and jammed the key into the ignition. The engine sputtered, coughed, and died. No. I tried again. The engine turned over but didn't catch. Through the window, I saw them emerging from the forest. All 6 scarecrows walking toward us in that slow, synchronized pace. Third try. The engine roared to life. I threw the RV into reverse, not caring about the hookups, not caring about anything except getting away. Metal screamed as the electrical cord and water line tore free. The RV lurched backward, and I heard something crunch under the wheels. I spun the wheel, shifted into drive, and punched the accelerator. The RV fishtailed on the gravel, then found traction. In the side mirror, I saw the scarecrow standing in the road behind us, watching. Not chasing, just watching. We reached the main road and I turned toward civilization, toward safety, toward anything that wasn't that forest. Emily sat beside me, silent. I glanced over at her every few seconds, checking to make sure she was still. Her. "Em? You okay?" She didn't answer. "Emily?" She turned to look at me, and I saw her face in the dashboard lights. The stitched smile was gone. Her mouth was normal. Her eyes were mostly normal. "I'm okay," she said. But I heard the wrongness in her voice. Subtle, almost imperceptible, but there. "Do you remember what happened?" I asked. "I remember sleeping, and then I was in the forest, and you were running." She frowned. "But before that, it's fuzzy. You disappeared. I couldn't find you. And then..." I couldn't finish the sentence. She reached over and took my hand. Her skin was cold. "We're safe now," she said. Right. I wanted to say yes, I wanted to believe it. But when I looked in the rearview mirror, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Her reflection didn't match. In the mirror, Emily was smiling. That same wide, stitched smile. And in the darkness of the back seat, I could see it. The burlap sack with my name on it, waiting patiently on the bed. "Right," I said, my voice hollow. "We're safe." We drove through the night. Emily fell asleep after an hour, her head against the window. I kept driving, even though I had no idea where we were going. Every town we passed looked the same, dark, empty, forgotten. Around 3 a.m., I pulled into a rest stop. Emily didn't wake up when I stopped the engine. I sat there listening to her breathing, wondering if it was real or if I was imagining it. I wanted to check on her to make sure she was still herself, but I was afraid of what I might find. The burlap sack was still in the back seat. I could see it in the mirror, that black marker spelling out my name. I should have left it behind, should have thrown it into the forest, burned it, anything. But something had stopped me. The same something that made me keep driving instead of going to the police, instead of going to a hospital, instead of doing anything that made sense. Because part of me knew, had known since the moment I saw her standing in the darkness, that whatever came back from those woods wearing Emily's face, it wasn't entirely her anymore, and it wanted me to join it. I'm writing this at the rest stop, using the last of my phone's battery. We're somewhere in Mississippi now, I think. Emily is still asleep. She's been asleep for 6 hours and she hasn't moved once. In the mirror, her reflection keeps smiling. I don't know what to do. I can't leave her, but I can't keep running forever. And that burlap sack? I know I should throw it away, but every time I reach for it, my hand stops. Like something's holding me back, like part of me wants to put it on. The sun will be up soon. Maybe things will look better in daylight. Maybe I'll figure out what to do. Maybe Emily will wake up and be herself again, and we can pretend this was all just a bad dream. But I don't think so, because when I look in the mirror now, I see them. The scarecrows. Standing at the edge of the parking lot, barely visible in the darkness before dawn. They're not moving, not coming closer, just watching, waiting. And I think I understand now. The forest didn't trap us. We were never trapped. We're free to go wherever we want. But we'll never really leave. Because wherever Emily goes, they follow. And wherever I go, she follows. We're bound to them now. To that place. To whatever darkness lurks in Kisatchie Forest. Emily is stirring. Her eyes are opening. And I can see in the mirror, in her reflection, that smile getting wider. "Marcus?" she says, her voice wrong. "Why did we stop?" "Just resting," I tell her. "Good," she says, "because we need to go back." "What?" "We forgot something. The flannel shirt. I need my shirt." She's not making sense. But then I look down and realize I'm wearing it. The red flannel shirt from the scarecrow. I don't remember putting it on. I was wearing my jacket and now... "That's better," Emily says, and her voice is her own again, warm and familiar. "You look nice in that color." I look at my hands gripping the steering wheel. They don't feel like my hands anymore. In the rearview mirror, the scarecrows are closer now. 6 of them standing in a line, waiting. And I know with a certainty that chills my blood, that tomorrow there will be 7. Emily takes my cold hand in her cold hand. "Let's go home," she says, and I start the engine. Because what choice do I have? We're already theirs. My name is Tyler Hill. This happened in October 2023 at an RV park near the Porcupine Mountains in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. I'm writing this because I need to get it down while I still remember all of it, or at least what I think I remember. The problem is that I'm not entirely sure anymore what actually happened and what I've convinced myself happened. There were 6 of us initially. I'm certain about that because I have the receipt from the RV rental, and it lists 6 names. Me, Jen Parker, Marcus Webb, Katie Donaldson, Eric Santos, and Lindsay Morgan. We all worked at the same software company in Chicago, different departments, but we'd become friends over the past 2 years. The trip was Jen's idea. She'd been talking about getting away from the city before winter set in, somewhere remote where we could disconnect for a few days. The RV park was called Presque Isle River Campground, about 20 minutes from the actual Porcupine Mountains State Park. We chose it because they had full hookups and it wasn't quite as crowded as the main campground. When we arrived on Friday afternoon, there were maybe a dozen other RVs scattered across the sites, most of them older couples preparing for the winter snowbird migration south. We had 2 RVs. I was driving the larger one with Jen and Marcus. Katie, Eric, and Lindsay followed in a smaller one they'd rented separately. The drive up from Chicago took about 9 hours with stops. Nothing unusual about the trip itself. We listened to podcasts, argued about where to stop for lunch, the normal road trip stuff. The campground host checked us in. Her name was Carol, late 60s, wearing a Packers sweatshirt despite the Lions being the closer team up here. She gave us a map of the campground, pointed out where the bathrooms were, warned us that cell service was spotty and to use the Wi-Fi password posted in the main office if we needed internet. Standard orientation. We set up in adjacent sites numbers 47 and 48, backing the RVs up to the electrical and water hookups. The sites were separated by a thin row of pine trees, but we could easily see each other. Behind our sites, the woods got thick pretty quickly. Carol mentioned there were trails back there, but most people stuck to the marked ones closer to the river. That first evening went fine. We built a fire in the pit between our sites, cooked hot dogs and hamburgers, drank beer. It got cold after sunset, down into the 40s, but we had heavy jackets and the fire kept us warm. Around 10, someone suggested taking a group photo. I have a decent camera, a Canon DSLR I'd bought a few years ago when I thought I might get into photography as a hobby. I set it up on a tripod, positioned it to get all 6 of us with the fire in the foreground use the timer. We crowded together on the logs we'd arranged as benches. The camera clicked. When I checked the image on the display screen, we were all there. 6 people, clearly visible, smiling. I remember thinking it was a good shot. The fire gave nice lighting to everyone's faces. I showed it around and everyone agreed we looked good. Katie asked me to send it to her later. We stayed up until midnight talking and drinking. Normal friend stuff. Jen was going through a breakup and needed to vent. Marcus gave terrible advice about dating apps. Eric told the same stories about his college band that we'd all heard before. Lindsay mostly listened, occasionally chiming in with something dry and funny that would make everyone laugh. Nothing strange happened that night. Nothing that I noticed anyway. Saturday morning, Katie knocked on our RV door around 8. She said Lindsay wasn't in their RV. At first, we assumed she'd gone to the bathroom or for a walk, but Katie said she'd checked the bathrooms and walked the main loop of the campground. Lindsay's jacket was still in the RV. Her phone was still there. Her shoes were by the door. We organized a search, split up and walked through the campground, checking the trails near the river, asking other campers if they'd seen her. No one had.
One older man said he'd been up since 6 and hadn't seen anyone walking around at all. Around 10, we decided to call the park rangers. The ranger who showed up was in his 40s, professional, took notes about Lindsay's description and when we'd last seen her. He said people sometimes wandered off and got disoriented in the woods, but they usually turned up within a few hours.
He'd radio other rangers and they'd do a proper search of the trails. While we waited, I looked through the photos from the night before to see if there was anything that might help. Maybe Lindsay had mentioned going somewhere, or looked like she was planning to leave. I pulled up the group photo from the fire. 5 people, Jen, Marcus, Katie, Eric, and me. All clearly visible. Same positions we'd been in. Same fire in the foreground. No Lindsay. I checked the metadata. The photo was taken at 10:47 p.m. the night before, just like I remembered. But Lindsay wasn't in it. I was sitting where she'd been sitting. The log space wasn't compressed like someone had been cropped out. It looked like I'd always been in that spot, like there had only ever been 5 of us. I showed Katie. She stared at the screen for a long time, then said that wasn't possible. She'd been sitting next to Lindsay. We'd all seen the photo last night, and Lindsay had been in it. But when Katie looked at her own phone, at the version I'd airdropped to her the night before, it also showed 5 people. Maybe you took 2 photos, Katie said. Maybe this is from before she sat down or after she got up. But I'd only taken 1 photo. I remembered distinctly because the timer had been set for 10 seconds, and we'd all had to hold still. There hadn't been time for multiple shots. Eric came back from checking the trails. He'd found nothing. We told him about the photo. He looked at it and said, "Okay, so what? Tyler probably took it before we all sat down." "But I remember Lindsay being in it," Katie insisted. "Memory's weird," Eric said. "Maybe you're just thinking of other photos." The ranger came back around noon. They'd searched the main trails and found no sign of Lindsay. He took a photo of her from Katie's phone to distribute to other rangers and local police. He said they'd continue searching, but suggested we also file a missing person report with the county sheriff. That's when things got complicated because none of us had Lindsay's full legal name or her emergency contact information. Katie thought her last name was Morgan. I thought it was Morrison. Eric wasn't sure. We all agreed she worked in accounting. But when Jen called our office's emergency line, the HR person who answered said they had no employee named Lindsay Morgan or Lindsay Morrison in accounting or any other department. "Maybe she's a contractor," Katie said, but she didn't sound convinced. We sat in my RV and tried to piece together what we knew about Lindsay. She was in her late 20s, maybe 30. She had dark hair, wore glasses, drove a Honda Civic. She'd been on this trip. We all remembered her being there, but the specific details were fuzzy. Where had we met her? At a company happy hour, someone thought, or maybe a team lunch. Had she been at last year's holiday party? We couldn't agree. "This is insane," Marcus said. "We've known her for like 2 years. We can't all be misremembering her name and where she works." But clearly we were. The ranger suggested we file the report anyway with the information we had. Physical description, last known location, approximate age. The county sheriff's office would take it from there. He'd continue coordinating searches in the park. By evening, we were exhausted and confused. The sheriff's deputy who came to take our statements was polite but clearly skeptical. 6 co-workers go camping, 1 disappears, and none of them can provide basic information about the missing person? He took our statements anyway, gave us a case number, said they'd investigate. We didn't feel like building a fire that night. We sat in my RV, ate sandwiches, talked in circles about Lindsay. Katie was the most upset. She'd been sharing an RV with Lindsay. They'd talked for hours on the drive up, but she couldn't remember what they'd talked about, just that they had talked. "Did she have a boyfriend?" Jen asked. None of us knew. Siblings? No idea. Where did she grow up? Blank looks around the RV. Eric suggested we were all just tired and stressed, that things would be clearer in the morning. We agreed to get some sleep and regroup tomorrow. Maybe Lindsay would turn up by then. Maybe this would all make sense. Katie didn't want to sleep alone in the other RV, so Jen let her take the bed in ours. Marcus and Eric went to the smaller RV. We locked the doors, set alarms, tried to sleep. I couldn't. I kept thinking about the photo. I got up around 2 in the morning and looked at it again on my camera. 5 people. I scrolled through the other photos I'd taken on the trip. There were a bunch from various stops on the drive up. A gas station in Wisconsin where we'd stopped for snacks. A scenic overlook near Green Bay. The entrance sign to the Porcupine Mountains. In every photo where I'd captured the group, there were 5 people, not 6. 5. I opened my laptop and checked my phone's photo backup. All the photos from the trip were there. I went through them methodically. In the gas station photo, I'd taken a picture of everyone posing in front of the car. 5 people. At the scenic overlook, Marcus had taken a selfie with everyone crammed in. I could see the photo on Instagram, posted yesterday afternoon. 5 people in the frame. The caption said, "Up here," with a bunch of tree emojis. 11 likes. Comments from co-workers and friends saying things like, "Looks fun" and "jealous." Nobody said, "Who's missing?" or "Where's Lindsay?" I searched my text messages for Lindsay's name, nothing came up. I searched my work email, no results. My Facebook friends list, Instagram followers, LinkedIn connections. No Lindsay Morgan, no Lindsay Morrison, no Lindsay anyone that I recognized. Sunday morning, I showed the others what I'd found, or rather, what I hadn't found. We gathered in my RV and went through everyone's phones, social media, email. No Lindsay. It was like she'd never existed. "So we're all having the same delusion?" Katie said. "All 5 of us independently invented the same imaginary person?" "There has to be a rational explanation," Eric said, but he didn't offer one. Jen suggested we drive home. "This whole trip was cursed," she said. "We should pack up, get out of here, deal with this back in Chicago where things made sense." But Marcus pointed out that we'd already filed a missing person report. If we left now, we'd look even more suspicious. Besides, we'd paid for 3 nights at the campground. We might as well stay. I wanted to document everything. I'm not sure why. Maybe I thought if I took enough photos, wrote enough notes, I could make sense of it later. I started taking pictures of the campground, the RVs, the surrounding woods. Group photos of the 4 of us who were left. Katie didn't want to be in any pictures, but the rest of us posed by the campfire pit, by the RVs, on the trails. Later that afternoon, I uploaded all the new photos to my laptop to clear space on my camera's memory card. I opened them in editing software to tag and organize them. That's when I noticed something off about the photos from that morning. The one I'd taken of Marcus, Eric, and Jen standing in front of my RV. In the original that I'd looked at on my camera screen, All three of them were clearly visible. But now, looking at the file on my laptop, Eric wasn't there. Just Marcus and Jen, standing slightly farther apart than they had been, as if compensating for empty space. I checked the camera. The photo on the display screen showed Eric. I checked my laptop. The same file, transferred minutes ago, did not show Eric. I called everyone over, showed them both versions. Eric was shaken but tried to play it off. Must be a computer glitch, corrupted file or something. But I'd taken maybe a dozen photos that morning, and when I checked them all, Eric was missing from half of them. Not all, just half. And it wasn't random. The earlier photos showed him. The later ones didn't, like he was gradually being erased. "This is completely fucked," Marcus said. He looked at Eric. "You're right there. You're fine." "I'm fine," Eric agreed, but he was pale. Jen suggested we stop taking pictures. "Maybe it's the camera. Maybe it's broken or haunted or I don't know, just don't use it." But Katie pulled out her phone. "I took some photos this morning too." She scrolled through them. Her hand started shaking. She held up the phone to show us a selfie she'd taken of herself and Eric. In it, she was alone, making a peace sign at the camera, smiling. Empty space next to her, where Eric should have been. "I was in that photo," Eric said. "I remember you taking it. I made a stupid face." "You were in it," Katie said. "You were definitely in it when I took it." We spent the next hour checking every photo any of us had taken since arriving at the campground. The pattern was clear and impossible. In chronological order, people disappeared. First Lindsay, completely scrubbed from every image. Then Eric, starting to fade from the more recent photos. In the most recent pictures taken within the last hour, Eric wasn't visible at all. "Maybe we should go to a hospital," Jen said. "Mass hallucination or carbon monoxide poisoning or something." But we all felt fine. No headaches, no dizziness, no confusion other than the obvious confusion about what was happening. We checked the carbon monoxide detectors in both RVs. They were working, showing normal levels. Eric made a decision. He announced he was leaving, driving back to Chicago. He'd seen enough and wasn't going to wait around to disappear or whatever was happening. Marcus tried to talk him out of it, said we should stick together, but Eric was firm. He'd take the smaller RV and go. We could follow when we were ready. "What about the missing person report?" Katie asked. "Tell them I had a family emergency," Eric said. "I don't care, I'm not staying here." He packed his things, got in the smaller RV, and drove out of the campground. We watched him go. The taillights disappeared around the bend of the main campground road. That evening, the three of us who remained tried to act normal. We built a fire, made dinner, didn't take any photos. We talked about work, about the bears' terrible season, about anything except what was happening. Around 9, Katie said she was exhausted and went to bed in Jen's RV. Marcus and I sat by the fire for another hour. He asked if I believed in ghosts or curses or any of that stuff. I said I didn't, but I didn't have a better explanation for what we were experiencing. He said his grandmother used to tell stories about places that didn't want people around, that would make them leave or make them disappear. She'd grown up in rural Mexico and had dozens of stories like that. He'd always thought they were just stories. "You think this place is like that?" I asked. "I think something is very wrong," Marcus said, "and I think we should leave in the morning." We agreed on that. First light, we'd pack up and get out, file another police report back in Chicago if we had to, try to track down Eric, figure out what happened to Lindsay. But we'd do it somewhere else. I didn't sleep well that night. Every small sound from the woods seemed amplified. Branches snapping, animals moving around, the wind through the pines, normal forest sounds that felt threatening. I kept thinking about Lindsay. Had she felt like this before she disappeared? Alone, unsettled, listening to the sounds outside? I must have dozed off eventually because I woke to knocking on the RV door. It was still dark out. I checked my phone. 4:47 a.m. The knocking came again, urgent and rapid. I opened the door. Katie stood outside in her pajamas and jacket, barefoot, her face streaked with tears. "Jen's gone," she said. I followed her to the other RV. The bed where Jen had been sleeping was empty, covers thrown back. Her shoes were by the door, her phone on the table, her jacket hanging on a hook. The RV door was unlocked but closed. "I woke up to use the bathroom," Katie said. "She wasn't here. I thought maybe she went to use the campground bathroom, but I checked and no one's there." We searched the campground again, called for Jen, knocked on other campers' RVs to ask if anyone had seen her. Same as with Lindsay. No one had seen anything. It was like she'd evaporated. When it got light enough, we went through our phones and cameras again. I already knew what we'd find. Jen was gone from the photos, all of them. The group shot from Friday night showed 4 people now. Marcus, Katie, Eric, and me. The photos from Saturday showed 3 people. Marcus, Katie, and me. But here's what made me feel sick. When I scrolled back to photos from before the trip, from work events and happy hours over the past 2 years, Jen wasn't in those either. A photo I distinctly remembered from our company's summer picnic, where Jen had been standing between Marcus and me, now showed Marcus and me standing close together, no gap between us. Like Jen had never been there at all. Katie was having a breakdown. She sat on the ground outside her RV, rocking back and forth, saying this wasn't happening. This couldn't be real. Marcus tried to comfort her, but he looked almost as bad. His hands were shaking when he lit a cigarette. "We need to leave right now," he said. "Not in an hour. Right now." We agreed. Screw packing properly or disconnecting the RVs correctly. We'd just drive. We could return the RVs damaged, pay whatever fees. We needed to get out. Marcus went to start his RV. I helped Katie gather her essential stuff from Jen's RV. We were throwing things in bags, not organizing, just grabbing phones and wallets and clothes. Katie found Jen's driver's license in a bag. She held it up to show me. "See? She's real. Jennifer Marie Parker. This is her." But when I looked at the license, the photo showed someone I didn't recognize. A woman in her 30s with short blonde hair and a round face. Nothing like the Jen I remembered, who had long dark hair and sharp features. The name said Jennifer Parker. The address was in Chicago. But the person in the photo wasn't anyone I knew. "That's not her," I said. Katie looked at the license again. "What do you mean?" "That's exactly what she looks like." "No. Jen has dark hair." Katie stared at me. "She's blonde. She's always been blonde." We stood there in the RV, each of us certain we were right, neither of us able to reconcile what we were seeing with what we remembered. Finally, Katie put the license in her pocket and we finished packing. Marcus came back from his RV. "It won't start. Battery's completely dead. I don't know how, I just drove it yesterday. We tried jumping it from my RV. Nothing. The engine wouldn't even turn over. My RV started fine, so we decided we'd all squeeze into it and leave Marcus's behind. We could figure out getting it later. We were hooking up the tow to disconnect from the campground utilities when Carol, the campground host, drove up in her golf cart. She asked if we were checking out early. Marcus explained that we'd had emergencies, people going missing, we needed to leave. Carol looked confused. "Missing? What do you mean?" "Our friends," Katie said. "Lindsay and Jen. They disappeared." "Honey, you checked in alone," Carol said. She consulted her clipboard. "Tyler Hill, party of 1. Site 47. You paid for 3 nights." "No," I said. "There were 6 of us, 2 RVs." Carol gestured at the empty site next to mine. "Site 48 has been vacant all weekend. You're the only one in this section." I looked at the empty site. There was no RV there, no tire tracks in the gravel, no sign anyone had been there. But I had clear memories of the other RV, of Marcus and Eric setting it up, of sleeping in it on Friday night. "This is insane," Marcus said. "You checked us in, all of us. You remember." But Carol just looked concerned and asked if we needed medical assistance. She suggested we might be dehydrated or experiencing altitude sickness, even though we weren't at significant altitude. She offered to call a doctor. We said no. We just needed to leave. Carol made a note that we were checking out early, said she'd process the refund, hoped we'd visit again under better circumstances. She drove away on her golf cart. The three of us stood in the campground, looking at each other. Marcus said what we were all thinking. This is going to keep happening until there's nobody left. We got in my RV and drove toward the campground exit. The main road was about a quarter-mile from our site. We made it maybe 200 yards before the RV started making a grinding noise and lurched to a stop. The engine died. I tried to restart it. Nothing. The battery, which had been fine minutes ago, was dead. We sat there for a while, trying to process what to do next. Katie suggested we walk. The nearest town was maybe 5 miles. We could hike out, call for a tow truck, get a ride. But the idea of walking through the woods felt wrong. Every instinct told me we needed to stay in the RV, locked inside, safe. Safe from what? Marcus asked when I voiced this. I didn't have an answer. Around noon, another camper drove by and stopped when they saw us. An older couple in a truck. They asked if we needed help. We explained our RV had died and we needed a jump or a tow. The man said he'd try to jump us, pulled his truck around. Nothing. The RV remained dead. Alternators probably shot, the man said. You'll need a mechanic. I can give you folks a ride to town if you want. Marcus immediately moved toward the truck, but I grabbed his arm. I don't know why. Just a feeling that getting in that truck was a bad idea, that leaving the RV was wrong. We'll wait for a tow, I said. The couple seemed puzzled but shrugged and drove off. We watched them go. Katie started crying again. She said she didn't understand what was happening, why this was happening, what we'd done to deserve this. Marcus and I didn't have answers. We were down to 3 people and we all knew we wouldn't stay 3. I suggested we document everything we could remember, write it down before it disappeared like the photos. We found notebooks and pens in the RV and spent the next few hours writing out everything we remembered about Lindsay, Jen, and Eric. Physical descriptions, stories about them, conversations we'd had, anything to prove they'd existed. When we compared notes, our stories didn't match. Katie remembered Lindsay as short with brown hair. I remembered her as tall with black hair. Marcus thought she wore contacts, not glasses. We remembered Jen differently too. Blonde or brunette, tall or average height, blue eyes or brown. The more we tried to nail down specific details, the more they slipped away like water through fingers. By evening, we'd given up trying to remember. We just sat in the RV waiting. The sun set. It got dark outside. We turned on the RV's interior lights, which still worked even though the engine wouldn't start. Around 8, Katie said she needed to use the bathroom. The RV had a small bathroom, so she didn't need to go outside. But when she came out 10 minutes later, Marcus and I both startled because we'd forgotten she was in there. Just for a moment, but we'd completely lost track of her existence. That's it, Marcus said. We can't stay here. We have to risk walking out. In the dark, Katie said. We're sitting here waiting to disappear, Marcus said. At least if we're moving, we're doing something. We argued about it. I thought we should wait until morning. Marcus thought morning might be too late. Katie didn't want to do either. Wanted someone to rescue us, wanted to wake up and have this be a nightmare. In the end, we decided to wait. Lock ourselves in the RV, stay together, stay awake. If we were going to disappear, at least we'd be together when it happened. We played cards, talked about mundane things. Marcus told a long story about his brother's wedding that was probably only half true. Katie talked about her cat. I described the apartment I was hoping to move into next month. Normal conversation that felt absurd given the circumstances. Around midnight, Katie fell asleep in one of the seats. Marcus and I let her sleep. We kept talking, keeping each other awake. He asked me if I thought we'd remember this afterwards. If we got out, if we survived, would we remember? Or would we wake up back in Chicago with no memory of this trip? No memory of the people who disappeared? I don't know, I said. I'm writing this all down. Maybe that'll help. Maybe, Marcus said. He didn't sound convinced. We talked until about 3 in the morning. Then Marcus said he was going to close his eyes for just a minute. I told him to go ahead. I'd keep watch. He leaned back in his seat and was asleep within seconds. I sat there alone in the RV, the only one awake. I should have been tired, but I was wired with adrenaline and fear. I kept checking my phone even though there was no service. Scrolling through photos, looking for evidence of the others. They were all gone from my photo library now. Every single image. When I looked at the pictures from work events, I was often standing alone or positioned oddly in group shots. Like someone had been cropped out, but the remaining people hadn't been repositioned correctly. Around 4 a.m., I decided to check the physical photos I'd taken with my camera. The actual files on the memory card, not the ones I'd uploaded. Maybe they'd be different. Maybe the originals would still show everyone. I got my camera from my bag and turned it on. Scrolled through the images on the card. The group photo from Friday night. 4 people. Marcus, Katie, Eric, and me. No Jen. No Lindsay. I kept scrolling back. The photos from the drive up. 3 people at the gas station. Marcus, Katie, and me. No Eric. The scenic overlook selfie. 2 people, Marcus and me. No Katie. The entrance sign to the Porcupine Mountains. 1 person. Me. Just me, standing alone in front of the sign, smiling at the camera. I looked at the seats where Marcus and Katie were sleeping. They were still there. Solid. Real. But the photo said otherwise. The photo said I'd come here alone. I didn't wake them. What would I say? Instead, I got out my notebook and started writing. Writing everything I could remember, this whole account. I needed to get it down before I forgot, before they disappeared completely. Dawn came. The sun rose over the trees. Light filtered into the RV. I finished writing and closed the notebook. I looked at where Marcus and Katie had been sleeping. The seats were empty. I was alone in the RV. I checked my phone. No texts from them. No call history. My contacts list was shorter than I remembered. I searched for Marcus Webb. Nothing. Katie Donaldson. Nothing. I opened my recent call log. The last call I'd made was 3 days ago, to the RV rental company to confirm my reservation. Party of 1. I checked my email. The confirmation, 1 RV, 1 driver, solo camping trip. I looked at the second seat in the RV where Marcus had been sleeping. There was an indentation in the cushion, like someone had been sitting there, but when I touched it, it was cold. I got out of the RV. The campground was waking up. Other campers were starting their days, making breakfast, packing to leave. I walked to where the second RV had been parked. Site 48, empty. The gravel showed no tire tracks. The grass wasn't pressed down where the RV would have been. Carol drove by on her golf cart. She waved cheerfully. "Morning, enjoy your stay?" "Yes," I said automatically. "Heading out today?" "Soon." She drove on, heading to greet other campers. I stood there trying to figure out what to do. Call the police? And tell them what? That 5 people I couldn't prove existed had vanished? That I had clear memories of a camping trip with friends, but all evidence said I'd come alone? I walked back to my RV, sat in the driver's seat, turned the key. The engine started immediately. Battery fully charged, working perfectly. I drove out of the campground, took Highway 28 back toward Chicago. The drive was long, and I kept trying to remember the trip up. Had I really been alone? No, I'd had conversations. I'd listened to podcasts with someone. We'd stopped for lunch. I remembered ordering food for more than 1 person, but maybe I hadn't. Maybe I was remembering wrong. Memory is unreliable. False memories feel real. I know that intellectually. When I got home to my apartment, I unpacked. There was only my stuff, only my clothes, my toiletries, my food. No evidence anyone else had been planning to come. I checked my work email, looked up Jen Parker in the company directory. Nothing. Lindsay Morgan. Nothing. Marcus Webb. Nothing. Katie Donaldson. I searched all variations of her name. No results. I asked my cubicle neighbor if he knew Marcus Webb. He looked confused and said he'd never heard of anyone by that name. I described Marcus. My neighbor shrugged, said lots of people worked here. He couldn't know everyone. It's been 3 weeks now. I've been looking at my photos constantly, checking them obsessively. They haven't changed. They all show me alone. Every single one. The photos from this trip, photos from previous trips, photos from work events. I'm either by myself or positioned strangely in groups, obviously alone even when I'm with other people. But I have this notebook. I wrote everything down while it was happening. Names, descriptions, conversations, proof that they existed, proof that I didn't go camping alone. Except when I read back through what I wrote, some of it doesn't make sense. There are gaps, places where I've written names but can't remember who those names belong to. Descriptions of people I can almost see in my mind, but not quite. I think I'm forgetting. The same way they disappeared from the photos. They're disappearing from my memory. I'm writing this final section now because I need to get it out while I still can. While I still remember that something happened, even if I can't remember exactly what. There were 6 of us. I'm sure of that. 6 people who went camping in the Porcupine Mountains. And now there's one. Me. The only one left. The only one who remembers, even though my memories are fading. The photos say I was always alone. My phone records say I came alone. The campground records say I checked in alone. Everyone I ask says they don't know the people I'm asking about, but I know. I remember. At least I think I do. Sometimes I wonder if I'll be next. If one morning I'll wake up and find that I've disappeared too, erased from photos and memories and records. Maybe there's already no evidence I exist. Maybe I'm already gone and just don't know it yet. I look at photos of myself now and I'm never quite sure if I'm really there. The person in the images looks like me, but also not. Like a copy of a copy, slowly degrading. Every picture I took slowly erased people from the frame. Until there was only one. Until there was none. I'm going back to the Porcupine Mountains next weekend. I need to understand what happened. I need to know if they're still there somehow, trapped in that place, or if they're truly gone. I probably won't come back. I know that. But I have to try. If you're reading this, if you find this notebook in my apartment or my car or wherever I leave it, please remember that we existed. Lindsay, Jen, Marcus, Katie, Eric, and Tyler. 6 people who went camping and didn't all come back. Please remember us. Please remember that we were real. My name is Victoria Hayes. This happened last September in the Bighorn Mountains of Wyoming at a campground called Shell Creek RV Park. I'm writing this down because I need someone to know what happened, even if no one believes me. Marcus and I had been planning this trip for months. 3 years of marriage, both of us grinding at jobs we hated in Denver, and we needed a break. Just us, the RV we'd rented, and 5 days in the mountains before the season ended. No cell service, no internet, no distractions. I remember thinking it would save us. I remember being that naive. We arrived on a Thursday afternoon. The drive from Denver had taken longer than expected. Marcus insisted on taking back roads to avoid construction, and I didn't argue. The RV park was more isolated than the photo suggested. 12 sites total, scattered among lodgepole pines, and only 3 other RVs when we pulled in. The ranger station was a small cabin at the entrance, but no one was inside when we stopped. Just a note taped to the door. Check in after 5 p.m. Site 7 is yours. Jay. Marcus parked us at Site 7. It was the farthest from the entrance, backed up against dense forest. The nearest occupied site was maybe 100 yards away. I could see a fifth-wheel trailer with Montana plates and an older couple sitting outside in camping chairs. They didn't wave. "Perfect," Marcus said, stepping out of the RV. He stretched, his back cracking. Total privacy. I started unpacking while he set up the hookups. We'd rented a 28-foot Class C, bigger than we needed, but it was all they had available. The interior smelled like pine-scented cleaner and something else underneath. Something stale. I opened windows while I worked. The journal was in the cabinet above the dinette table. I almost missed it. I was putting away groceries, and when I reached for a water bottle, my hand knocked against something. I pulled out a small leather-bound notebook. maybe 5 by 7 inches with a worn cover and no title. I opened it to the first page. September 14th. Victoria arrives, finds journal, reads first entry, doesn't believe it yet. My stomach dropped. Today was September 14th. My name was Victoria. I flipped through the pages. They were dated sequentially, the 14th through the 18th. 5 days. Our entire trip. Each entry was written in neat, cramped handwriting I didn't recognize. I read the next few lines. Marcus will notice she's quiet at dinner. He'll ask what's wrong. She'll show him the journal. He won't take it seriously. They'll argue about whether to stay or leave. They'll stay. I closed the notebook and put it back in the cabinet. What's taking so long? Marcus called from outside. I didn't answer. I finished unpacking in silence, shoving cans into the cabinet, my hands shaking slightly. When everything was put away, I grabbed 2 beers from the cooler and went outside. Marcus had set up our camping chairs. The sun was dropping behind the mountains, painting everything orange and shadow. It was beautiful. It should have been beautiful. You okay? He asked, taking the beer. Fine. We sat in silence for a while. I kept thinking about the journal. Someone's idea of a joke, probably. The RV was a rental. Maybe the last person who used it left it behind. Maybe they knew someone named Victoria was coming next. It was on the reservation after all. Maybe they thought it would be funny. But how did they know we'd arrive on the 14th? How did they know I'd find it first? You're quiet, Marcus said. I looked at him. There's something weird in the RV. Weird how? I told him about the journal. He listened without interrupting, which was unusual for Marcus. When I finished, he set down his beer. Show me. We went inside. I pulled the journal from the cabinet and handed it to him. He read the first entry, then flipped through the pages, his expression unreadable. Creepy, he said finally. Some kind of prank. That's what I thought. But how did they know? They probably write something vague in every RV they rent out. Names get recycled. We're not the first Victoria and Marcus to exist. The date matches. We made our reservation 3 months ago. Someone could have checked it. I wanted to believe him. I wanted it to be that simple. Should we leave? I asked. Marcus looked at me. Because of a notebook? Because someone might be watching us. Vic. He put his hands on my shoulders. It's a prank. A dumb, creepy prank. If you want to leave, we'll leave. But we drove 7 hours to get here and we both need this. He was right. We did need this. We'd been fighting more lately. Stupid fights about nothing. Dishes, schedules, whose turn it was to call his mother. A week ago, I'd found myself Googling marriage counseling Denver at 2 a.m. This trip was supposed to reset us. Okay, I said. We'll stay. Yeah? Yeah, but I'm keeping this. I took the journal from him and shoved it in my bag. Just in case. We cooked dinner on the propane stove. Pasta with jarred sauce, garlic bread. Marcus opened a bottle of wine. We ate outside as the temperature dropped and stars appeared. Other than the couple in the fifth wheel, we didn't see anyone. No ranger came by to officially check us in. Maybe we're the only ones here, Marcus said. There are other RVs. Doesn't mean they're occupied. The thought was unsettling. I changed the subject. We talked about work, about friends, about everything except the journal. By the time we went to bed, I'd almost convinced myself it didn't matter. I woke up at 3:17 a.m. The clock on the RV's dashboard glowed green in the darkness. Marcus was asleep beside me, breathing deeply. I needed to use the bathroom. The RV bathroom was barely big enough to turn around in. I did my business quickly, trying not to make noise. When I opened the door, I saw light coming from the dinette area. The cabinet above the table was open. The journal lay on the table, closed. I hadn't left it there. I'd put it in my bag, which was in the bedroom. My heart started pounding. I walked to the table slowly, scanning the small space. The door was locked. The windows were closed. We were alone. I picked up the journal and opened it to the second entry. September 15th. Victoria wakes at 3:17 a.m., finds journal on table, reads this entry. Marcus is still asleep. She checks the door. It's locked. She feels watched. My hands went cold. I checked the door. Locked. I looked out the windows into darkness. Nothing moved. I felt watched. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. I checked every inch of the RV. Nothing. No one. Marcus didn't stir. I stood in the middle of the living area, holding the journal, trying to breathe normally. This wasn't a prank. You can't prank someone into waking up at a specific time. You can't predict they'll find the journal moved unless someone had been inside while we slept. I checked the door locks again, checked the windows. Everything was secure. But that meant nothing. Someone could have come in and left while I was in the bathroom. They could be outside right now watching. I put the journal on the counter and made myself read the rest of the entry. At 7:30 a.m., Marcus will wake up complaining of a headache. They'll eat breakfast. Victoria will not tell him about finding the journal moved. She's afraid he'll think she's overreacting. They'll go hiking on Trail 341. Marcus will suggest turning back after 2 miles. Victoria will insist they continue. They'll see something in the woods. They won't agree on what it was. By 4 p.m., one of the other campers will be dead. I read that last line 3 times. I didn't sleep after that. I sat at the dinette table with all the lights on, holding a kitchen knife we'd brought for cooking. Marcus woke up at 7:30. Jesus, Vic, you okay? Headache? He blinked. Yeah, actually. Bad one. Why? I showed him the journal entry. This time he read it more carefully. When he finished, his jaw was tight. Someone's fucking with us. Marcus. They got into the RV while we were asleep. They moved the journal. They're trying to scare us. Then we should leave. We should call the cops. We don't have cell service. We drive until we do. But we didn't. We ate breakfast, cereal, and coffee, and Marcus insisted we at least talk to the ranger first. We walked to the entrance station, but it was still empty. The note was gone from the door. Marcus tried the handle. Locked. Great, he muttered. We checked the other occupied sites. The fifth wheel with the older couple was still there, but no one answered when we knocked. The couple's chairs were set up outside, a book lying face down on one of them, but no people. There was one other RV now, a small travel trailer that hadn't been there the night before. A man in his 50s was outside dumping his gray water tank. Excuse me, Marcus called. The man looked up. He had a weathered face and suspicious eyes. Have you seen the ranger? Marcus asked. We need to report something. Haven't seen anyone, just got here an hour ago. There's supposed to be someone at the station. The man shrugged. Sometimes they don't show. Budget cuts. Marcus thanked him and we walked back toward our site. I felt the man watching us the whole way. This is insane, Marcus said. We should just leave. You said... I know what I said. But if someone's harassing us and there's no ranger, what's the point of staying? I didn't argue. We packed quickly, barely speaking. I kept the journal in my pocket. Marcus was unhooking the water when I saw the older couple from the fifth wheel. They were standing at the edge of the trees between their site and ours, just standing there, not moving. Marcus, I said. He followed my gaze. What are they doing? I don't know. We watched them for maybe 30 seconds. They didn't move, didn't wave, just stood there facing us. This is too weird, Marcus said. I'm going to talk to them. Don't. Vic, we can't leave without... Please don't. But he was already walking toward them. I followed a few steps behind, my stomach knotting. As we got closer, I could see their faces more clearly. The man was maybe 70, the woman a bit younger. They both wore hiking clothes and blank expressions. Hey, Marcus called. You folks okay? They didn't respond. We're trying to find the ranger, Marcus continued. Have you seen anyone? The woman spoke without moving her lips. You should stay. Her voice was wrong, flat, like she was reading from a script. What? Marcus asked. You should stay, she repeated, exactly the same way. The trail is beautiful today. We were just leaving. Don't leave, the man said, his voice the same flat monotone. It's safer here. Marcus glanced at me. I shook my head. He looked back at the couple. Thanks for the advice, he said carefully. We'll think about it. We backed away. They didn't follow, didn't move. Just stood there watching us with empty eyes. Fuck this, Marcus said when we were out of earshot. Fuck all of this, we're leaving right now. We finished unhooking in 10 minutes. Marcus started the engine. I sat in the passenger seat, the journal still in my pocket, and we pulled out of Site 7. The road out of the campground was a single lane of gravel, maybe half a mile long. Marcus drove faster than he should have, rocks pinging against the undercarriage. I watched the trees blur past. We reached the entrance. The gate was closed. What the hell? Marcus stopped the RV. That wasn't closed when we came in. It was a simple metal gate on a hinge, the kind that swings across the road. A chain and padlock held it shut. Marcus got out. I watched him examine the lock, then walk back to the RV. It's locked. No key. Can you move it? Not without bolt cutters. We sat there for a moment, engine running. The Ranger, I said. Maybe they came by and didn't realize we were still here. We can wait for them to come back. When? We haven't seen anyone. Then we drive back and call for help from the office. We tried that, there's no one there. Marcus, what else can we do? He didn't answer. He put the RV in reverse and started backing up. The gravel road was too narrow to turn around properly. He had to back up almost a quarter mile, using the mirrors, swearing under his breath the whole time. When we got back to Site 7, he parked and killed the engine. Maybe it's for fire danger, he said. Maybe they locked the gate during certain hours and didn't tell us. That doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense, Vic. But we're stuck here until someone opens that gate, so we might as well. What? The entry. I pulled out the journal. It said we'd go hiking. Trail 341. We're not going hiking. We're stuck here because... It also said one of the campers would be dead by 4 p.m. Marcus stared at me. You can't seriously believe... I woke up at 3:17 a.m. You had a headache at 7:30. That couple said exactly what they said. Everything has happened exactly like it's written. Coincidence? All of it? He didn't have an answer for that. I opened the journal and read ahead. The entry for September 15th continued. They'll decide to hike anyway. Victoria thinks walking will clear their heads. Marcus agrees reluctantly. They'll take the trail behind Site 7. 2 miles in, they'll hear something following them. Marcus will want to turn back. Victoria will convince him to keep going. At the 3-mile mark, they'll find the ranger's truck. The door will be open, blood on the driver's seat, no body. That's when Marcus will start to change. I felt cold all over. What? Marcus leaned over to read. His face went pale. Jesus Christ, this is some kind of sick joke. What if it's not? Then what? You think this notebook can predict the future? You think... He stopped. The couple, the way they acted, and the gate being locked and no ranger. Vic, what if someone kidnapped the ranger? What if those people back there are involved? It was the most logical explanation, but it didn't explain the journal. We should stay in the RV, I said. Lock the doors. Wait for someone to come. And if no one comes? Then tomorrow we figure out how to break that lock. Marcus nodded slowly. Okay, we'll do that. But I'm going to check on that couple first. See if they're... normal. If something's wrong, we'll know it's not just us. Marcus, don't. I'll take the walkie-talkie. You stay here. If anything happens, I'll radio you. He was out the door before I could stop him. I watched through the window as he walked toward the 5th wheel, one of the camping walkie-talkies clipped to his belt. He disappeared around the side of their RV. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. The walkie-talkie on the counter crackled. Vic? I grabbed it. Marcus, what's wrong? You need to see this. See what? Just come here, now. His voice sounded strange. Not scared, not exactly. Just flat. I thought about the couple, the way they'd spoken. Marcus, come back to the RV. Vic, please, I need you to see this. What is it? Just come here. The line went dead. I tried calling him back. No response. I stood in the RV holding the walkie-talkie, my heart hammering. Every instinct told me not to go, to lock the door and wait. But Marcus was my husband. If something had happened to him, I grabbed the kitchen knife and stepped outside. The afternoon sun was bright, but the air felt wrong. Too still. No birds, no wind. I walked toward the fifth wheel, scanning the trees, the knife gripped tight in my hand. Their RV was bigger than ours, nicer. The door was closed. I knocked. Marcus? No answer. I tried the handle. Unlocked. I opened it slowly. The interior was pristine, too clean. No personal items, no food in the kitchen area, no clothes, no books, nothing to indicate anyone actually lived here. Like a showroom model. Marcus, I heard something from the bedroom at the back. A shuffling sound. Marcus, if you're trying to scare me, it's not funny. I walked toward the bedroom, knife raised. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open with my foot. The older couple sat on the bed side by side, hands folded in their laps, staring straight ahead. Not at me, at nothing. Where's my husband? The woman turned her head slowly. Her eyes were empty. He's at the truck. What truck? The ranger's truck, 3 miles up Trail 341. My blood went cold. How do you know that? Because that's what's supposed to happen. I backed out of the RV and ran. I ran back to our site, expecting to find Marcus there, expecting this to be some elaborate prank. But the RV was empty. His hiking boots were gone. The walkie-talkie he'd been carrying was on the counter. He'd never called me. Someone else had used his voice. I grabbed my phone, still no service. I shoved it in my pocket anyway, along with the journal, and laced up my boots. The knife went into my other pocket. Then I went to find my husband. Trail 341 started behind our campsite. I'd seen the marker when we arrived, a small brown sign nailed to a tree. The trail was narrow, winding through lodgepole pines and aspens. I walked fast, scanning for any sign of Marcus. After maybe 20 minutes, I heard something behind me. Footsteps. I spun around. Nothing. I kept walking. The footsteps continued, matching my pace. When I sped up, they sped up. When I stopped, they stopped. Marcus? No answer. I pulled out the knife and kept moving. The trail climbed steadily. My calves burned. I checked my phone every few minutes. Still no signal. At what I guessed was around 2 miles, I heard something else. A voice. Singing. It was a child's voice, high and clear, singing a nursery rhyme. Ring around the rosy, pocket full of posies. The voice came from somewhere to my right off the trail. I stopped walking. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down. Then silence. I was alone in the forest. No child, no Marcus, just me and the knife and the journal burning in my pocket. I kept hiking. Every part of me wanted to turn back, but Marcus was out here somewhere, and I couldn't leave him. At the 3-mile mark, I found the truck. It was a Forest Service vehicle, olive green, parked on a small turnout beside the trail. The driver's door hung open. I approached slowly, knife ready, blood on the driver's seat. A lot of blood, dark and dried. No body. I checked the truck bed. Empty except for some tools. I looked inside the cab, keys still in the ignition. A clipboard on the passenger seat with papers. I pulled it out. The top page was a roster. Names and dates. I scanned down the list and stopped at the entry for September 14th. Site 7, Victoria and Marcus Hayes. 5 days. Someone had circled our names in red pen. Below it, they'd written, "They will not leave." I dropped the clipboard. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the knife too. Vic? I turned. Marcus stood 20 feet away on the trail, his hiking boots muddy, his face pale. Marcus, I ran to him. Jesus Christ, where were you? What happened? I don't know. He looked confused, disoriented. I was at the fifth wheel, and then, I don't remember. I was just walking on the trail. How did I get here? You don't remember? No, the last thing I remember is going to check on that couple. Then nothing. What time is it? I checked my phone. 3:47 p.m. We need to go, I said. Now. I showed him the truck, the blood, the roster. His face went gray. Someone's doing this to us, he said. Someone planned this whole thing. The journal. Fuck the journal, this is real. Someone is hunting us. He took my hand and we started back down the trail. We moved fast, nearly jogging. I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting to see someone following, but the forest was empty. We were maybe a mile from the campground when Marcus stopped. Do you hear that? I listened. Footsteps, multiple sets, moving toward us from ahead. Off the trail, Marcus whispered. We pushed into the trees, crouching behind a large pine. The footsteps got closer. 3 figures emerged on the trail, the older couple and the man from the travel trailer. They walked in single file, their movements synchronized, their faces blank. The trail is beautiful today, the woman said to no one. It's safer here, the man from the trailer replied. You should stay, the older man said. They passed within 10 feet of us. We didn't breathe. When they were gone, we waited another 5 minutes, then made our way back to the trail. We ran the rest of the way. At 4:08 p.m., we found the man's body. He was lying on the trail, face down, his skull crushed. Blood pooled around his head. The same man who'd been walking with the couple. Except he was here. Dead, even though we'd just seen him alive on the trail. Marcus bent over and vomited. I pulled him away from the body. We have to get back to the RV. We have to get out of here. We reached Site 7 at 4:20 p.m. The other RVs were still there, but I didn't see anyone. Marcus got into the driver's seat. I sat beside him. We're ramming that gate, he said. Marcus, I don't care. We're getting out of here even if it destroys the RV. He started the engine. We pulled out of the site and drove toward the exit. The gate was still locked. Marcus accelerated. At the last second, I screamed, "Stop!" He slammed the brakes. We lurched forward. The ranger stood on the other side of the gate. He was young, maybe 30, with a neat uniform and a name tag that read J. Morrison. He looked normal, alive. He waved at us, smiling. Marcus rolled down the window. Open the gate. Sorry about that, the ranger called. Had to close it for a medical emergency. Give me a second. He produced a key from his pocket and unlocked the chain. The gate swung open. We didn't move. Something wrong? The ranger asked, walking toward us. There's a dead man on Trail 341, I said. His smile didn't waver. A dead man? And blood in your truck. Where have you been? My truck? He looked genuinely confused. I've been dealing with a situation at another campground all day. Just got back. What's this about a body? Marcus and I looked at each other. Show us your truck, Marcus said. Sure, it's right over. The ranger stopped. Wait, you said my truck's on 341, 3 miles up. His confusion deepened. That's impossible. My truck's been at the ranger station all day. I just parked it there 20 minutes ago. He led us back to the entrance station. His truck was there, clean, no blood. We told him everything. The journal, the strange people, the body on the trail, the blood in what we thought was his truck. He listened quietly, his expression growing more concerned. I need to check this out, he said when we finished. Can you show me where you saw the body? We're not going back there, Marcus said. I understand, but if there's a body, I need to... Call the police, I said. There's no cell service here. Closest phone is 15 miles down the mountain. Tell you what, you folks head into town. Report this to the sheriff. I'll check the trail. If I find anything, I'll call it in from the office. It seemed reasonable. It seemed normal. But nothing about this was normal. We'll wait for you, Marcus said. We'll wait right here while you check. The ranger studied us for a moment. Then he nodded. All right. Give me an hour. Don't leave the campground. He got in his truck and drove away toward the trailhead access road. We sat in our RV with the doors locked. I pulled out the journal and opened it to September 15th. The entry continued beyond what I'd read earlier. By 5 p.m., Victoria will realize the ranger isn't coming back. Marcus will insist they wait until morning. Victoria will agree. They'll eat dinner in silence. Marcus will excuse himself to use the bathroom. He'll be gone for 15 minutes. When he returns, Victoria will notice his eyes look different. She won't say anything. She'll be too afraid. That night, Marcus will kill her. I read it again, then again. What? Marcus asked. I couldn't speak. I handed him the journal. He read the entry and went very still. This is bullshit, he said finally. This is someone trying to make us crazy. Everything else came true. Not everything. That man, we saw him alive after the journal said someone would be dead by 4 p.m. The timeline's off. We saw him dead too. We saw a body. We didn't get a good look at the face. I wanted to believe him, but I kept thinking about his blank expression on the trail, the missing hours, the way he'd appeared exactly where the journal said he would be. It was 4:45 p.m. We should leave, I said. Right now, the gate's open. The ranger said, fuck what the ranger said. We need to leave. But Marcus was already shaking his head. It's getting dark. These mountain roads, if we drive them at night, we could go off a cliff. We should wait until morning. First light, we leave. Marcus, one night, Vic. We lock the doors, we stay alert. One night. I thought about the journal's prediction. Tonight. It would happen tonight. I agreed anyway. Because what else could I do? Refuse to stay with my husband? Tell him I thought he might kill me? How do you say that to someone you love? We made dinner, grilled cheese sandwiches. Neither of us ate much. We sat at the dinette table, the journal between us like a third presence. I need to use the bathroom, Marcus said at 6:30. I watched him walk to the tiny bathroom and close the door. I heard the lock click. I stared at the door. 1 minute passed, then 5, then 10. Marcus, I called. No answer. Marcus, are you okay? Nothing. I stood up and walked to the bathroom door. I knocked softly. Marcus? The lock clicked open. The door opened slowly. Marcus stood there, swaying slightly. His eyes were different, darker, unfocused. I'm fine, he said, but his voice was flat, wrong. He walked past me to the dinette and sat down. I stayed standing. What happened in there? I felt dizzy. I'm okay now. I looked at his eyes. They weren't his eyes anymore. I don't know how to explain it. They were the same color, the same shape, but something behind them had changed. Marcus, what's wrong with your eyes? Nothing's wrong. They look different. You're imagining things. He smiled, and the smile was wrong too. Too wide, like he was trying to remember how smiling worked. I sat down slowly, keeping the table between us. Tell me something only Marcus would know, I said. What? Tell me where we went on our first date. He stared at me for a long moment. Why are you asking me that? Just answer. That Thai restaurant in Denver. What was it called? I don't. Bangkok Palace? We didn't go to a Thai restaurant. We went to a pizza place. Bojo's in Idaho Springs. His smile didn't change. Right, I forgot. You wouldn't forget. Victoria, I'm tired. I'm stressed. I'm allowed to forget things. What's my middle name? He hesitated, just for a second. Marie. It's Grace. I know that. I was testing you. I stood up. I'm going outside. You shouldn't go out there alone. It's getting dark. I need air. I grabbed my phone and the knife and stepped outside. The sun had set. Shadows stretched across the campground. I walked away from the RV toward the tree line, trying to breathe, trying to think. The journal had predicted this. Marcus using the bathroom. Being gone longer than normal. Coming back different. But what did different mean? Was he possessed, drugged, or just exhausted and scared like me? I heard a sound behind me. Turned. Marcus stood in the doorway of the RV, silhouetted against the interior light. "Come inside," he called. "In a minute." "Victoria, it's not safe." "I'll be fine." He stepped outside and started walking toward me. His movements were odd, stiff, like a puppet on strings. "Come inside," he repeated. "Marcus, stay there." He kept walking. I backed up, raising the knife. "Stop." He stopped. We stared at each other across 15 feet of darkening campground. "Something's wrong with you," I said. "Nothing's wrong." "Then why are you acting like this?" "Like what? Like you're not you?" He tilted his head. The movement was too smooth, too calculated. "I am me. I'm Marcus, your husband. We've been married 3 years. We live in Denver. We came here to save our marriage." Each sentence came out mechanical, like he was reading facts from a card. "What's my favorite movie?" He didn't answer. "What's my favorite movie, Marcus?" "I don't." "The Notebook?" "I hate The Notebook. I've always hated it. You know that." "I forgot. You're not him." The thing wearing my husband's face smiled. "Where would he go?" I turned and ran. I ran into the forest behind our site, crashing through underbrush, the knife still in my hand. Behind me, I heard him following. Not running. Walking. Steady. Inevitable. I didn't have a plan. I just ran. The forest was dark now, only the faintest light filtering through the canopy. I couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. Branches whipped my face. Roots grabbed at my feet. I ran anyway. After maybe 10 minutes, I couldn't hear him anymore. I stopped, gasping for breath, trying to orient myself. I pulled out my phone. Still no signal. The battery was at 30%. I turned on the flashlight and immediately regretted it. The beam cut through the darkness like a beacon, announcing my position to anyone looking. I turned it off and stood in the dark, listening. Something moved through the trees to my left, then my right, then behind me. Multiple somethings. I heard the older woman's voice, flat and dead. "You should stay." The man from the travel trailer. "It's safer here." The ranger. "Don't leave the campground." They were surrounding me. I picked a direction and ran. More sounds. More voices. The forest was full of them. All speaking in that same emotionless monotone. All saying things that almost made sense but didn't quite. I broke through a thicket and found myself at the edge of a small clearing. In the center stood Marcus. No, not Marcus. All of them. 6 identical Marcuses, standing in a circle, all facing outward, all smiling that wrong smile. I backed up slowly. They didn't move. Just stood there, watching me with those dark, wrong eyes. "Victoria," they said in unison, "come inside." I turned and ran again. I ran until I couldn't run anymore, until my lungs burned and my legs gave out. I collapsed against a tree, gasping, the knife still gripped in my hand. The forest was quiet now. No voices, no footsteps, just wind in the branches and my own ragged breathing. I pulled out the journal and turned on my phone's flashlight, shielding it with my body. I flipped to September 16th. September 16th. Victoria spent the night in the forest. She'll make it back to the RV at dawn. Marcus will be there, normal again. He won't remember anything from the night before. Victoria will pretend to believe him. They'll pack up. They'll leave. But they won't make it out. At 9:30 a.m., the road will be blocked. Not by a gate this time. By them. All of them. Marcus will try to drive through. The RV will crash. Victoria will be injured. Marcus will die. Or not Marcus. The thing that's wearing Marcus. After that, it's just Victoria, alone, and they'll come for her. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. I kept reading. She'll run, she'll hide, she'll fight, none of it will matter. By noon, she'll understand. By 2 p.m., she'll be one of them. By 3 p.m., she'll forget she was ever Victoria. The entry ended there. I flipped to the next page. September 17th. Blank. September 18th. Blank. The last page had a single sentence in different handwriting. Messier. Desperate. If you're reading this, you're already trapped. I'm sorry. I tried to warn myself too. I closed the journal. I don't know how long I sat there. Hours, maybe. The forest grew quiet around me. No birds, no insects, just silence and darkness and the weight of what I'd read. Eventually, the sky began to lighten. Gray dawn filtered through the trees. I could see again. I made my way back toward the campground, moving slowly, listening for any sign of them. But the forest was empty. Just me and the trees. I reached Site 7 as the sun came up. The RV looked normal, peaceful, like none of this had happened. Marcus sat at the picnic table outside wearing the same clothes from yesterday. He looked exhausted. When he saw me, he stood up. Vic, Jesus, where have you been? In the forest. Why? I studied his face. His eyes looked normal now. Brown, clear, no darkness behind them. You don't remember last night? I remember. We had dinner. I used the bathroom. After that, it's fuzzy. I woke up on the bed an hour ago. You were gone. I've been looking everywhere. He sounded sincere. He looked like my husband again. We need to leave, I said. Right now. I know, I'm sorry about last night. I don't know what happened to me, but let's pack up and get out of here. We packed in silence. I kept watching him, looking for signs of the thing from last night. But he seemed normal, worried, tired, but normal. We pulled out at 9:15 a.m. The gate was open. The ranger station was empty. We drove down the gravel road toward the highway. At 9:28 a.m. we rounded a curve and Marcus slammed on the brakes. They stood across the road. All of them, the older couple, the man from the trailer, the ranger, and 12 others I hadn't seen before, all wearing camping clothes, all with those empty eyes. They stood shoulder to shoulder, blocking the entire road. Behind them, I could see more emerging from the trees, dozens, maybe hundreds. What the fuck? Marcus whispered. The ranger stepped forward. He raised one hand. You should stay, he said. The others repeated it, their voices overlapping into a chorus. You should stay. You should stay. You should stay. Hold on, Marcus said. He floored the accelerator. The RV lurched forward. The line of people didn't move. We were maybe 10 feet away when they all stepped aside in perfect synchronization, opening a path. Marcus didn't slow down. We shot through the gap. I looked in the side mirror as we passed. They all turned to watch us go, their heads swiveling in unison. Then they started walking, following, moving faster than should be possible. Marcus, I see them. The RV swayed dangerously on the narrow road. We were going too fast, way too fast. But the things behind us were gaining. We reached a sharp curve. Marcus tried to brake. The RV skidded. Then we were airborne. I remember the sensation of weightlessness, the sound of metal tearing, glass shattering, impact. When I woke up, I was lying in grass. The RV had rolled off the road and down an embankment. It lay on its side 30 feet away, steam rising from the engine. Marcus? I stood up. Pain shot through my left arm. Broken, probably. I stumbled toward the wreckage. Marcus was still in the driver's seat, held by the seatbelt. Blood covered his face. His eyes were closed. Marcus. Marcus, wake up. I pulled at the seatbelt, trying to free him. He didn't respond. I checked for a pulse. Nothing. I don't know how long I knelt there, holding his hand, crying. Could have been minutes. Could have been hours. When I finally looked up, they were there, standing in a circle around the wreck. All of them, watching me with those empty eyes. The ranger stepped forward. He held out his hand. It's time, he said. I backed away. No, it won't hurt. Fuck you. I ran. Again. Through the trees, down the slope, my broken arm hanging useless at my side. They followed, always following. Never running, never rushing. Just walking. Patient. Inevitable. I ran until I couldn't run anymore. Until I collapsed in a dry stream bed, gasping, crying, dying inside. They gathered around me, silent, waiting. The ranger knelt beside me. You can't leave. No one leaves. This is where you stay. Why? Because this is where we are. All of us. Forever. I don't understand. You will. He touched my forehead. His hand was cold. The world went dark. When I woke up, I was in the RV. Our RV, Site 7. Everything was normal. Unpacked. Like we'd just arrived. Marcus stood at the stove, making coffee. He smiled when he saw me. Morning, sleepyhead. Want breakfast? I looked at my left arm. Not broken. No pain. I touched my face. No cuts, no bruises. What? You okay? You look pale. I stood up slowly. What day is it? Thursday, September 14th. We just got here, remember? He poured coffee into 2 mugs. You were worried about finding something weird. That journal or whatever. But we looked. There's nothing here. Just us and 5 days of peace and quiet. I walked to the cabinet above the dinette. Empty. No journal. Marcus, I remember... Hey. He put his hands on my shoulders. It's okay. You're probably just tired from the drive. Why don't you sit down, have some coffee, and we can plan out our day. His eyes were brown, clear, normal. But when he smiled, it was too wide, too perfect. I pulled away, walked to the door, looked outside. The older couple sat in their camping chairs. The man from the trailer dumped his gray water. The ranger's truck was parked at the station. All of them turned to look at me at the same time. Then they waved. Come sit down, Vic, Marcus called from inside. Breakfast is almost ready. I stood in the doorway, frozen, trying to understand. Had it all been a dream? A hallucination? Or had I already died in the crash and this was something else entirely? I reached into my pocket. My phone was there. I pulled it out. September 14th, according to the screen. But when I opened my photos, the last picture was dated September 16th. A blurry shot of trees taken while running. Marcus appeared behind me. What are you looking at? I turned to face him, studied his eyes, looking for the darkness, looking for any sign of the thing that had taken him. Nothing, I said. Then come eat. He held out his hand. I looked at it, looked at his face, and I understood. I took his hand. We ate breakfast together, scrambled eggs and toast. Marcus talked about the hikes we'd take, the sights we'd see. I nodded and smiled and pretended everything was normal. Because what else could I do? At 11 a.m., a new RV pulled into the campground, a young couple with a dog. They waved as they passed. I waved back. At 11:30, they set up at Site 8. The woman was unpacking groceries. She pulled something from a cabinet and held it up, confused. A small leather-bound notebook. I watched from our picnic table as she opened it. Saw her face go pale. Saw her show it to her boyfriend. Marcus came outside and sat beside me. He followed my gaze. New neighbors, he said. We should introduce ourselves later. Yeah, I said. We should. Tell them about the trails. How beautiful they are. How beautiful they are, I repeated. He put his arm around me. I leaned into him. His body was cold. You should stay, he whispered. I should stay, I said, and I smiled. The journal appeared in my hands. I didn't remember picking it up, but there it was. I opened it to the first page. September 14th. Victoria arrives. Finds journal. Reads first entry. Doesn't believe it yet. The handwriting was mine. I looked at Marcus. His eyes were dark now. Wrong. Your turn to write tomorrow's entry, he said. I nodded. Picked up the pen I didn't remember grabbing. September 15th. I wrote, The new couple will wake at 3:17 a.m. The woman will find this journal on their table. She'll read it. She'll try to leave. She won't make it out. My hand moved across the page, writing words I didn't choose. Words that were true. Words that would be true. Because this is where we are. All of us. Forever. I can't leave. No one leaves. The mountains don't let go. If you're reading this, you already know what comes next. You're already here. You should stay. It's safer here. The trail is beautiful today, and tomorrow you'll say the same thing to whoever comes after you. You'll smile that too wide smile. You'll watch with those dark eyes. You'll forget you were ever anyone else, just like I'm forgetting. What was my name again? Victoria. Victoria Hayes. I have to remember that. I have to. But it's getting harder to hold on to. Like trying to grip water. Every minute a little more of me drains away. Marcus, no, not Marcus, the thing wearing Marcus, says it's easier if I stop fighting. Says I'll be happier once I let go. Maybe he's right. Maybe it's easier to stay. The new couple will try to run, they always try. But the mountains are patient. The mountains always win. And tomorrow, when they fail, when they crash or get lost or come back wrong, I'll be there. Smiling, waving, welcoming them. Because this is what we do now. This is what we are. I look at the mountains. They look back. And I understand that we were never meant to leave. The journal knows. The journal always knows. I turn to the last page, the desperate scrawl from someone who tried to warn themselves. I pick up the pen. Below their message I write, "It's already too late, we're already gone. Stop trying to remember who you were, that person doesn't exist anymore." Then I close the journal. I place it back in the cabinet of the RV at Site 8. Tomorrow someone new will find it. Tomorrow I'll watch them read it. Tomorrow they'll understand. The mountains don't let go, and neither do we. My name is Victoria Hayes. I think it is. But it's getting harder to remember. Soon it won't matter at all.